Okay, morning guys. So it is yet another sunny day in Dresden, and I've come up to the garage on a Sunday morning just to carry on with the safari roof, but also to tidy up a little bit, bring some stuff which I'm storing up here in the garage, but also in the basement at home. I found this. I knew it was in there obviously, but what it is, it's like a pavilion. I think it's probably about, is it 3 meters? Yeah, 3 meters square pavilion, which what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to build it up here and sort of maybe fabricate some sides for it, just to create like as best a dust-free environment as I can for when I'm actually painting the safari roof. So I have a look, maybe I'll put it up today, maybe I don't, see how I get on. But as I say, I'm going to start with just sanding down these holes that I filled last weekend, and yeah, then maybe I'll set about putting that pavilion up. So. Okay, so I've cleaned those dents up a bit, but you can see really that I need to get a little bit more filler in there. That one as well. But on the top, on the other side, let me just have a quick look. If you can see that, it's pretty. It's pretty dark, but so light outside. But anyway, there we go. That filled fine, and the dent along the top filled all right as well. So I'm going to leave those like that, but then put some more filler on these ones here. Okay, so I've just put that canopy up. It's actually quite good fun doing that, and it looks quite cool on the time lapse. But anyway, so this, I think, it looks like it's got sides as well, so that's perfect. I didn't realise it had sides. I'll have a check what they are. But if it has sides, then I don't have to fabricate them, so that could be perfect. But that gives you an idea. Oh, it's 3 meters square, it's massive. And I'll be able to put the sides on, and I'll have to get some kind of an extraction fan going on in there and maybe heat it a little bit as well, because I've got my heater over there. And yeah, I'm not quite ready for paint at the moment because I've actually still got to do the repair work on that panel there. But once I am, that'll be a nifty little spray booth. I hope anyway. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, so I put both the sides on. I tried this front one first, as you might have seen, but it got very windy and it started to push the tent towards the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it like this until I actually need to close them in, at which point I will close the shutter on the workshop. But that's as far as I'm going to do it today, because there's no need to finish it right now because I'm not quite ready for. Okay, so I've closed the shutter on the garage, and I've hoovered as best I can in here. I mean, you could probably spend days hoovering in this place. But I've got it pretty clean. I'll have to hoover it again obviously by the time I come to spraying, but it's just a start. So I've got the top skin in here at the moment, and what I'm doing is I'm just working on this piece of damage here. So I've heated it up already. I've got the worst of the dents out, and what I'm probably going to do, whoops, over there, is I've just lifted this up, so it's actually now proud because of the hammering I've done along here. I'm going to clean off these big burrs here on these two holes. I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to probably with the Dremel actually, I'm going to sort of just take this back about 1 millimetre or so, so when it pushes down it's flush with the metal underneath. And then, either I'm going to get somebody to weld it, but it's difficult to get the person, or get hold of them at least, or I'm going to JB weld a plate underneath. I think even if I do the JB weld underneath, some of you might think, oh, you know, that's not the right way to do it. And yeah, you're right, it's not the right way to do it, but it's basically just working with what I've got and achieving the results that I guess I'm going to be happy with. Because if I JB weld a plate underneath there and get the joint good enough, and I just fill these holes with filler, then, you know, it'll be a really nice finish, and I think I'll be happy with it. But I'll just see how I get on with that, just see how I progress. But that's what I'm doing now, just sort of tidying up that piece of damage there. Okay, so what I've done is I've cut a piece of relatively thick aluminium to 250 by 100 mil, and you can see this line here. That's where the top connects to the top that's underneath this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position that there. I'm going to tape it in place with masking tape. I'm going to mark out these holes from the other side, and then I'm going to drill through this thing, this plate. So I've got, actually, when I put the JB weld on the underside of this, I've got something to tighten down onto. So that's how I'm planning to do it. Okay, so this really is quite Heath Robinson. So that is a concrete block, which I've managed to get this all really straight under here using all these, you know, buckets and chocks and so on. I was sort of wondering whether I actually show this, but you know, this is the reality of what I'm doing. So I think you probably saw by the film just now that I used a plate and riveted, that you can just see the rivets there, riveted that through, because I think really, or in reality, you know, it's quite in keeping with the rest of the rivets that are around the place. And I'm just using the weight to, you know, push the metal down flat so the JB weld works. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to call it a day today because I've been up here for quite some time, and have a look what it looks like tomorrow. Okay, so this is the moment of truth really, taking this massive weight off and seeing if it's glued properly using the JB weld. I'm really hoping it does, or has, but I'm also not holding my breath. Oh, that wasn't glue breaking. Oh Christ, that's heavy. Can't really tell if that's hard or not. Yeah, that's hard. Okay. Have a quick look there. It's actually not gone too badly. I'm quite pleased with that. There's a small corner here, which is still pretty high. But all the rest of it, I mean, that's obviously just a lump of glue, which will come off when I sand it down, but that is not looking too too bad. It's looking pretty flat. To be honest, I reckon I'll just sand that down. I'm pretty pleased with that. I was thinking it could have been a lot worse. Right, it's Monday afternoon now, so I'm going to leave it until probably the weekend, or maybe I'll take a day off on Friday to come and look at this. But I just wanted to come up here to see what it's looking like, and also to get that massive concrete block off of the roof, just in case somebody knocked it over. But yeah, not looking too bad. Of that slightly raised part here, you can see basically those two parts, or all of that part along there, matched up pretty perfectly with the gluing. This bit was a bit raised, so I've taken that down a little bit, and I'm going to put some body filler in there just to smooth it off. I might take a little bit more of that JB Wild out there, but no, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that. So yeah, just get the filler on there and sand it flat. Okay, so I've just filled in those hammer marks over there and the seam of that split in there. I'll let that dry and then sand it back. It might need a little bit of filling after it, but yeah, I think I've got a pretty good coverage on there. Not particularly smooth, but should be fine when I sand that back. Okay, so back in the garage today, just popped up after work today. So rather than just trying to concentrate everything onto the weekends, just doing a little bit of work after work during the week every day, just to nibble away at the job. Body filler has gone off, nice and hard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sand that down and try and get a nice flat surface to it. So a couple of you guys have very kindly pointed out that I have got these clips the wrong way round, or the wrong way up at least. They shouldn't flop down like that. They should be turned 180 degrees up, and I can quite obviously see why, because they just fall like that. So what I'm going to do now is quickly turn those round. I've done them wrong on both sides obviously, and get that very small job done. Okay, so unfortunately my battery ran out when I was just getting started yesterday. So I actually did, I think, about 3 or 4 hours work, filmed about an hour of it, and then the battery went. So I got quite a lot done yesterday. So it might not look like it, but these gutters here on the roof were absolutely full of silicone sealant of different types, clear and brown. Somebody had daubed on silicone sealant on all of these rivets here. So I took all that off, and the best way I found of getting rid of that, it's something I found on YouTube, was using WD-40. So if you spray WD-40 all around the gutters, and then I used a number of things. This wire brush down there, you have to be a bit careful, because if you go at it too hard, maybe with an angle grinder with a wire brush on, it might really mark this top, because there's only aluminium, very soft metal. But that seemed to work pretty well, not too many marks. I also then used, which was really the most effective, were these little brushes, steel wire brushes on the Dremel, and used those on each and every, took bloody ages, rivet, and that really got the sealant off. along with the WD-40. So as you can see, what I've done along here is I went along with a punch with a piece of, with a hammer underneath here, and punched down all of these rivets again, because actually over time you can see them on these side ones here. They actually work themselves, I think, a little bit free, a little bit loose. So what that does is, if there's a gap in the sealant here, the factory sealant, then the water just gets in and then goes inside, which is clearly what had happened on this roof, because somebody had gone to great effort to seal it again, but they did it in a rather poor way. Anyway, so what I've done now, as I say, is I have got rid of all of the original sealant as well, which is pretty hard stuff. The way that seemed to have come off was using the heat gun, which I have over there, to heat it up, and then I was able to scrape it off with a screwdriver. I haven't gone all the way down there yet, but you can see it's looking pretty good. There's that hole that I repaired as well. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to clean up that all the way around that gutter. I'm umming and ahhing whether I punch all of these rivets down, because as you can see, by punching them, I've flattened them. What's that now? And I'm not sure if that's too good for them, because the original ones are sort of oval like that. And I haven't got an oval or domed style punch, so I might just tap them down a little bit, and then I'm going to run sealant, just general body sealant, which I have black, down this edge here. But you can see the join there once I've taken all that original sealant out, especially on the corners. And these ones, although you couldn't really see it, there was a big massive factory sealant along here which had cracked and gone hard and was clearly letting all the water in. So what I'm going to do, seal from this side, and also, if I can, is get in there from the other side and run a bead of sealant, oops, I don't know if you can see, but on the inside of that that join there, just to make sure that no water does come in. Then what I'm probably going to do, I don't know why this thing keeps going out of focus. Oops. Just a minute. There we go. Is maybe use a bit of sealant. I might use caulking actually, because I'm going to spray over it just in those gaps along there, just to make sure that we are absolutely sealed all round. But otherwise, what else are we doing? Oh yeah, with these vents, if you remember from the other side, the vents at the front here, they had like a downstand, like a big lip on the inside, which allows you to, here we go, fit some kind of a lining, which I didn't really want to do because I'm quite tall and it took some headspace away. So what I did, I took all of these rivets out. All of those rivets, I drilled them out yesterday, only to find that that downstand isn't riveted to the metal part here. It is welded, spot welded. So I ended up having to put all of those rivets back in with new ones, which is a bit of a pain, but it still meant that I could sort of tidy those up because, yeah, some were missing and so on. But yeah, as I say, this is starting to look pretty good. I rubbed it down, as you saw from the previous video, and I've got it pretty flat actually. I'm pretty pleased with that fix, I must admit. I wasn't too sure how it would come out, but putting the plate on the other side, I think once that's painted, you just simply won't know it's there. The only evidence that you'll have is these very small rivets, which will show through, but actually there are rivets all over this roof with the bolts along here, so I don't think it'll show up. So yeah, so I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm going to rub that down for one last time today, and then probably put some primer on it and concentrate on getting this cleaned up, ready for painting. Okay, so I've got all of that sealant out of the gutter there. Not all of it entirely, because actually what I found down here is by heating it up with the heat gun, you can actually remold it. So who knows, maybe it was possible just to reshape what was there, but I've actually cleaned out all the way. I've left the back, so I'm going to leave that as it is, but the three sides, left, right and the front, I'm going to reseal. So a little bit more tidying up there I've got to do around the rivets, but that'll be essentially it. I've got to clean the whole thing now with white spirit. I don't know why it's not focusing. I seem to have a focus problem today. I clean the whole thing with white spirit, and then I guess I'm going to do the sealing first and then tape everything up and then paint it. I think that's probably the way around I'm going to do it. Top up with white spirit all down the edges, all down the gutters there. It's all looking pretty clean, pretty much ready for the sealant. What I think I'll do is I will tack it first so it's ready for painting, and then I can do the sealant. I've already got the sealant there on the radiator over there because it is very cold in Dresden. It's sort of dropped quite heavily, the temperature. I think night before last it was -10. On the way up to work today it was -1, so pretty cold in the garage. I've even got my hat still on, but having that little heater on in this small tent enclosure that I've made, even though it's open on two sides, it keeps the warmth in, so it's actually not too bad. This eventually, as you know, will turn into my spray booth, so I'm going to probably use this. Yeah, it's like a polystyrene or like an underlay for concrete, which I'll just wrap round the outside of these two open parts. I'll wet the floor as well. I've got to hoover it all over again. Wet the floor and spray using this. Okay, so I've gone around all of those seams there. I might put a little bit more on the corners. It looks quite messy obviously because I haven't cleaned it up yet and I haven't taken the tape away. I'll do the tape in a minute because I don't want it drying with that lip of the tape. But I've actually got some blue rubber gloves, which has been the best thing for it, really. Just squirt. I suppose the easiest thing is to put a little bit of washing up liquid on the end of the glove and then run along, but I just use soapy water. Blended it in there and gone along all the way, I don't know if you can see, all the way along up there. So that is, I think, pretty much done. Maybe a little bit more on the corners, as I say, and then I'm going to take that tape off. Okay, so I'm just going to start taking a bit of this tape off, see how it comes off, and see how much tidying up I've got to do. Oops. Thing is with this sealant, it just gets absolutely everywhere. It's just so disgusting. But actually, by putting the tape down, which I haven't done in the past, makes a massive difference in terms of keeping the surfaces pretty clean. Whoops, he says, until he goes and puts it everywhere. I'm just going to chuck them down there, and I will get those off in a bit. So just going to get a blade here to get these ones up. Let's have a look. Probably can't really see much from over there, but just wanted to give you an overall view. Right, take this one off. Interestingly enough, I'll show you in a minute, but that actually looks pretty much like it did before, which is pretty cool. Put that down there, get off. There we go. And maybe from here.
might have to go back and sort of smooth it all down again or touch it up, whichever way. But that seems to be looking pretty good. I wonder if that's going to go around the corner or not. Whoop, yep. Okay. As I say, it needs a little bit of tidying up, but let's have a look what that looks like. So, looks pretty good. I think it could have been a bit thicker in places, but definitely using that tape is a good idea. I've got to go around with the white spirit and clean the rest of it off, but just try and focus on that there. Look, down there, that's pretty thick down there, but it's not too much. It's not too much of an issue, you know. I mean, that is pretty much like it looked when it came out of the factory. I think, anyway. I think they used a different sealant, but if you look at the one that's on the car at the moment, it's pretty similar, really. But yeah, so I'm going to get the white spirit out now and give the overrun there, the spillage, a bit of clean up. Okay, so that's just basically got those rough bits covered over, and a first coat on that repair there. You can see some high and low bits. Let me see, maybe once I get some paint on it, maybe I'll go over it very finely with the filler again. But you can see quite a big scrape down there as well. It looks actually worse because of the paint. Without that grey paint on it, you can virtually see it, virtually not see it. But that's quite a gouge along there. So given that the roof isn't by any means in pristine condition, I
I think it'll be fine, and I'm really looking forward to getting that painted. I'm really looking forward to getting it done. It's going to make the car look so cool. So just letting the sealant go off on this, and yeah, the next big job really is with the etch primer is to flip that over, which I could possibly do now, and just spray paint the inside of that, the underside of that roof. Okay, so I've just used the can there to undercoat the inside of the hardtop. Also did parts of the top skin as well, and also just round here I did the repairs that I did there. Yeah, but down the side there as well there were some scratches and scrapes. So essentially what I'm going to do now is just leave that to dry, not just the paint but also the sealant that I've got going around it, and I think leave it there for today. So next step is to build my spray booth better than it is, and then paint all the parts. So yeah, I'll see you the next time.